Every now and then we get a moment where somebody on the right is a little too honest. They're a little too honest. And, on the one hand, props for being real with us. But on the other hand, it's like, when you let that mask slip and show us who you really are, whoo, boy, is it ugly. It is super ugly. So this is in Mediaite. They say pro-Trump Fox News regular comes right out and says it, quote, "This country needs a dictator." So it's this guy right here. His name is Jesse Kelly. You see, for those of you who are listening to the audio version of the podcast and you can't see what's on screen is a picture of him. He was a regular on Tucker Carlson's show. And I know him because I covered a segment that he was in where he very famously said, "We should be sitting on a throne of Chinese skulls." And Tucker was nodding along. Anti-war Tucker Carlson was nodding along in agreement. Like, yes, genocide the Chinese and sit on a throne of their skulls. I'm very anti-war and anti-elitist. That's who this guy is. That's the last big moment he gave us that we talked about. Well, now he gives us this banger that we need a dictator. They say pro-Trump podcaster Jesse Kelly, a frequent guest on the canceled program of former Fox News host Tucker Carlson, declared that the United States needs a dictator in an alarming tweet. Quote, "Let me tell you all an uncomfortable truth. This country needs a dictator." Kelly tweeted to his nearly 640,000 followers. He's got more followers than me, man. That's wild. It's not like this guy doesn't have influence in right-wing circles. As the great John Adams said, "A free country only works for a moral people. We are not worthy of freedom. A dictator is coming." So in other words, Americans are not moral people and they don't deserve freedom. How do you even respond to stuff like this? I mean, I'll state the obvious. I actually do think we're a moral people. If you look at polling numbers, Americans intuitively get very basic things. Intuitively, without maybe knowing the specifics and the particulars, they'll tell you, yeah, I think we should have higher taxes on the rich. Yeah, I think we should have universal health care. Yeah, I think we should have higher wages. Now, every now and then there's an issue where I happen to disagree with the general sentiment, majoritarian sentiment in this country. But most of the time, that's not the case. I agree probably 80, 90% with it. So I'm a moderate in that sense. I'm a centrist. I'm right smack dab in the center of mainstream American opinion. This guy despises his fellow Americans. He despises them. He has nothing but contempt looking down his nose at you. Ironically, this is the right-wing version. Remember when Hillary Clinton said that thing that became, it was a huge story when she said the basket of deplorables or whatever, called half of Trump supporters that. And that was huge because the right was like, look, you just hate Americans. So noted, like, we hate you too, right? Like, that was the reaction from Fox. He's doing the right-wing version of that. Americans don't deserve freedom because they're not moral people. So in other words, he's a smug elitist looking down on regular people. And he actively wants a dictator. So in other words, he's embracing authoritarianism. He's embracing controlling every aspect of your life. Well, thank you for saying it. Thank you for coming out and being honest. Because now, when you bear this to the world, not many people are going to ride with you, bro. So they say, one Twitter user responded, "Weimar problems eventually lead to Weimar solutions." Whoo! So that's somebody being like, well, Nazi Germany happened because it was the solution to Weimar. So if America's in a Weimar situation, well, maybe we need our own Hitler. Maybe we'll get our own Hitler. Wow. Kelly simply responded to that tweet, quote, "There it is. So not only does he want a dictator, he wants a certain flavor and variety of dictator. One that perhaps rhymes with Schmadoff Splittler." These guys are unbelievable. At least one follower nominated Kelly himself for dictator, saying, "Sign me up for 4 years of Supreme Leader Kelly." Could you imagine having this much of a cucked mindset? Being this much of a simp to a podcaster? Listen, people are fans of all different types of podcasters or whatever. You guys are fans of me, I hope, at least, right? But goddamn it, none of you would sink this low. None of you would be like, yes, become our emperor, overlord, god king, Kyle. You control everything. Jesus Christ. Kelly followed up by tweeting, I don't want to be a dictator. Dictators are awful. All I'm saying is one is coming and we deserve him. So they're awful, but I support them, which means I support awful things. Again, thank you. This guy's not the brightest. They're not sending their best. The right-wing pundits are not sending their best. Another follower posted, I read that as him giving a warning, not advocating for a dictator, and asked Kelly for clarification on his comment. Kelly declined to explain, quote, listen to this. I don't give clarifications. What I said is right there for everyone to read. It's quite plain and simple. The perpetually offended dork wing will take it how they take it. The get it people will understand it. It needs no further clarification at all. In other words, no, bitch, I didn't stutter. We need a dictator. I want a dictator. I'm pro-dictator. That's what he's saying. Now, thankfully, there were some conservatives who took outrage with this, who took issue with this, because there's some conservatives who their version of conservatism is like, I want smaller government. I want to give the people more freedom. There's all different kinds of conservatism. There's like traditionalism as conservatism. You know, that's one idea. There's smaller government as conservatism. There's dictator apologia as conservatism, like authoritarianism as conservatism. There's all these different varieties. So one of these guys chimed in. Apparently this is more the small government type conservative, Noah Bloom. He says, quote, getting a Hitler to own the libs. Here, Gnome. Oh, I said Noah. I think it's Gnome Bloom. I couldn't have said it any better myself. That's all that animates this guy is hatred of liberals. That's it. You cannot base your entire politics around who you hate. That will warp your mind. That will rot your brain. It's not just about what you're against. It's what you're for. What are you in favor of? What makes sense? How should we organize society? These people just feel like, I hate liberals. And if that means we get an authoritarian dictator to control every aspect of everybody's life and we have no civil rights, no freedom, no liberty, no justice, well, I'm A-okay with that because I hate liberals. Kelly, a veteran of the Iraq War. Oh, what a surprise. He was probably directly involved in killing brown people overseas. What a surprise. This does not seem like a guy I'd trust with a weapon in a war. Do I think he's going to be meticulous about making sure he doesn't kill civilians? No. Quite the opposite. A veteran of the Iraq War gained notoriety on Twitter for trollish and sometimes violent commentary in support of former President Donald Trump. He ran for Congress twice in Arizona in 2010 and 2012, losing both times. Thank the good Lord that Arizona has some common sense. Even some conservatives there were like, you know what? Little too much. This was not the first time Kelly has mused about the U.S. being under the control of a dictator. In a 2021 appearance on Tucker Carlson Tonight, Kelly claimed that Republicans will soon elect a fascist because of how Hunter Biden was being treated. These guys are unbelievable. Now, would he say the opposite of that? Would he say, hold on now, Jared Kushner is just as corrupt, if not more corrupt than Hunter Biden? Jared Kushner took $2 billion from the Saudis. $2 billion. And he allegedly was slipping Mohammed bin Salman classified information as a result of it. The Trump administration did all sorts of favors for Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia paid them back. Jared Kushner got $2 billion. Trump got tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars from the Saudis for the live golf tournaments. So super corrupt as corrupt can be. Would he say, because of the treatment of Jared Kushner, this might lead to a left-wing socialist government, and they deserve that? He would never say that. No. It's just, I want excuses to have an overlord daddy, authoritarian dictator who gets to control everything. Again, because I hate the liberals. Okay. So now, lest you think this is the end of the story, well, think again. Because it seems to be all at once, all these different figures on the right, on the far right, these pundits, they can't even pretend anymore to not be fascists, because now we have this. Joshua Abatoy, he's the managing director at New Founding Org, executive director of American Reformer, and the Claremont Institute, which is, by the way, a very well-known conservative organization. Okay. He says, basically, America is going to need a Protestant Franco. For those of you who don't know, Franco was a Catholic dictator in Spain. And this guy's saying we need a Protestant version of Franco. So we need a dictator in the United States who's a Protestant. And then when there are plenty of people in the replies saying like, what? Dog, that's crazy. He says, hearing from a lot of pearl clutchers in the quote tweets, who in my estimation are far too sanguine about the durability of the status quo. But what is the specific contention? That the communists were preferable to Franco? Because, you know, that's the only option. Fascist dictator, authoritarian communist. That's it. There's no other options on the table. No other options on the menu. The thing that's so astonishing to me is just how dumb these guys are. Because there's a million problems with having a dictator, right? But one of the biggest things is like, okay, if we're going to all agree, our system is just going to be a dictatorship from now until whenever, till the end of time. Do they not realize that when one dictator dies, and then the power vacuum is filled by the strongest person the next time around, and we have a new dictator, do you think you're going to agree with the dictator every time there's a new dictator? So if you say, hey, I want a dictator, and the first one happens to be very far right, and then the next time around, maybe get a Stalin-type character, right? He fills the power vacuum. So now you have somebody who has total control, no checks and balances, but they say, you know what, let's nationalize every industry in the country. And it's like, oh, no, not like that. When I said I wanted a dictator, what I meant was, I want somebody who agrees with me on 100% of things. Yeah, but even if we had a dictator, even if you think that's the dictator you want, it's not going to be the case you agree with them on 100% of things, and there's no recourse. There's no checks and balances. There's no way to try to course correct. So it's just such a simp cuck mindset. Almost like, I don't want to have to think about anything, because really what it boils down to is I want to oppress the people I view as undesirables, the people who I disagree with, whatever minority groups, right? The degenerates, trans types, liberals. I want to oppress these. So as long as a dictator is hating the people I hate and cracking down on them using the force of the state, that's really what I want. So it is a politics of hatred. That's what it is. These people are not in favor of creating a thriving society and country for everybody. They're not in favor of that. Never were, never will be. So you know what? Maybe go get a new hobby. Go become big into sports or whatever. Because that sort of blind, idiotic tribalism and fandom works better over there than it does when you're trying to determine the future for everybody in the goddamn country. But now that they're letting their freak flag fly, I guess we should just say thank you. Because now, you know, nobody's going to accuse people like me of, oh, you're strawmanning them when you say this is what they believe. No, I'm not. They're just saying it now. They're just saying it. And so when I would make a point 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I don't know, it seems kind of fascist. Well, now there really is no counter argument now, is there? Because now it's not my words, it's their words. I was just able to read between the line effectively a little while ago. But now y'all know, because it's more than obvious. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.